right, thank you, James. And we have a picture of the TNA Wrestling six-sided ring. I have to say, before I even got into the company, even when I was doing vignettes, which we'll talk about with Dr. Stevie, I was super nervous about this ring. You could look at this as somebody that worked in nothing but a four-sided ring. And I've never worked in Mexico, never got exposed to this many sides of a ring. I did learn when I was practicing in this ring and trying to get my footing and my timing down, because obviously the steps are completely different. The turnbuckles are literally everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's a turnbuckle. And if you think this ring looks taut and tight and almost stiff, you would be right. So I'm going to let you follow up with some questions. But right off the bat, I was nervous. I was afraid, do I have to learn how to wrestle all over again and run the ropes? And the answer is, yeah, kind of.
Well, that was sort of my first question, actually, is do you constantly, I mean, you must have like a sixth sense, obviously, for where the ropes are in a four-sided ring. It should be fairly obvious, but with a six-sided ring, did you always find yourself just looking backwards?
Oh, no, not really. Here's what I had to worry about. And this is just kind of like the long game back then, the way we thought going from WWE to TNA is always, will I ever go back to WWE? So I wasn't worried about a 20 by 20 ring. Let's keep that size into account. A 20 by 20 four-sided ring and going to a much smaller, and you can see here, more compact ring. So my wind never really affected me in TNA because I was so used to working a 20-foot ring or even a 16 or 18 by 18 ring where you're running straight across is a longer distance than right here. So in that vein, I'm looking at it going, this won't be a problem, but am I going to become less conditioned if I ever go back to WWE? That's going to be the really test of my cardio conditioning. I know I'm thinking way there and I never went back, but people that usually went here were like, if I get over here, maybe someday I can go back.
What was the distance between the ropes? Because let's say with WWE, that's 20 by 20, but really the ropes are maybe 18 feet apart, to account for the ring apron.
Yeah, the edge of the ring apron to the edge of the ring apron. I'm going to tell you, it felt sometimes smaller than the WCW ring, which was a much smaller ring than WWE. I couldn't tell you except for the fact that, well, look at it this way. Say I'm running the ropes and I got to do a tackle drop down. When you do a tackle with somebody, you almost have to not step into them like you would in WWE to create more room for the drop down, leapfrog, and all that stuff. You almost, in this case, have to do the opposite and maybe wait right here in the center and then step forward to hit a shoulder block. Now, here's the confusing part right here too, James. What if I take a shoulder block, I go back, I'm laying this way. Usually in a four-sided ring, I would tell the guy, either run past me and then I can drop down here for him to come across there. Or this person, as I delete this, as I'm laying here, what do most people do? They shoulder block you down, you're bumped here. They go to the right side to run the ropes in this direction, right? So the leapfrog or the drop down goes basically perpendicular or parallel, okay? With the six-sided ring, it's smaller, shorter distance, and now all these, where are you running? You almost had to ask somebody which direction you're going to run after the shoulder block. Then, of course, the leapfrog and all that stuff. It felt like, how should I say, I didn't mind it so much because most of my matches were abyss, hardcore type matches, outside, inside. Some of the matches like Kurt Angle, Jay Lethal, other wrestling matches, it was weird because the minute they ran off the ropes, they were right on top of me. So you're almost got to like start swinging before they even hit the ropes for like a duck clothesline. So it's very condensed, if not claustrophobic for a lot of people. But I'll say this, it was super exciting to just stand in a ring that drew attention from the fans because it was so different. I remember AJ Styles was on Austin's podcast, and he wasn't happy when they got rid of the six-sided ring because it was the thing that set TNA apart from every American wrestling promotion.
I'm glad you mentioned every American because AAA had a six-sided ring for many years as well.
That's where
I'm
they got it
figuring
from. I think Jeff worked there, yeah. Is that where the origin was? Jeff went down there to work a show and said, this is cool, and took that and made it an American thing.
Let's talk about the turnbuckles, because does the angle of a turnbuckle make any difference whatsoever to how stiff or how difficult it is to take a turnbuckle bump?
Yeah, it's a definitely, I use the word taut. Taut meaning like when you tighten the ropes up, they're very taut. And these ropes were cables. These were not WWE ropes. So these were cables that were even stiffer. Now, these are great if you're AJ Styles. You want to springboard, you want to do stuff like that. That Stephanie girl, we're going to talk about what went wrong. She probably could have benefited from these cables rather than ropes in WWE. Hitting the turnbuckles, I've never been great at that, but they cushioned a little bit, but there's no like Bret Hart popping the turnbuckle when he hit his chest on it. It's just way too tight.
I'll get to the ropes again in a minute. I just have to ask this. Because there were 6 sides rather than 4, did you ever lose where the hard camera was?
No, because the bleachers are set up in a 4-sided ring kind of situation. If the arena was like a hexagon or octagon, and you're like, plus we went to the same studio mostly every time, so you knew where the hard camera was. But the handhelds, they had a time trying to figure out, now they got 6 sides to run around not knowing. Now you might think like the distance here isn't as far as a 4-sided ring and the person has to run all around for the ring, but you could literally run 2 sides past, then you have to kind of come back to catch the shot. So if you notice, a lot of times, especially on the outside, the handheld would just kind of follow where the people were going. And then when they got back in, they would kind of stay static, still behind the talent, and rely on the hard camera to cover what they miss. That rather than the other way around, where the hard camera is covered by the handhelds, I can see the handhelds having a lot of a problem trying to get around. I think they had a minimum of 2 handhelds, if not more. Am I correct with that?
I think it was a decent little production. I'm trying to think how many cameras
Minimum
they had, because they always
2.
had the boom as well.
Yeah. And they weren't that Steadicam. That was amazing. That made the 6-sided ring, and it had the little, we talked about on the Abyss entrance in WWE 2K, that they did the tilting to the Steadicam as the music hit. It was really cool.
Now, as a cruiserweight and high flyer, Stevie, you'll know this more than most, but was it difficult standing on the ropes as compared to a 4-sided ring? I know I'm being facetious with the question, but...
Yeah, and I'm trying to be equally as facetious with the answer. Because I remember when I used to do springboard forearms and AJ took it from me, I was just like... And I think Charles is the one. Charles Robinson, once again, wasn't even with the company. And I'd say, actually it was Charles, AJ. It was Charles. It was his decision to go back to a 4-sided ring in a company he's never worked at. But I refuse to let that stop me from my accusation.
Is it more difficult to get your footing if you're stood on those ropes compared to a 4-sided ring?
No.
Just because the angle's so much wider?
No, you know why? It could be, but for the few times I got up on the top rope, the width of this right here, the turnbuckle, if I can get, there we go. The width of the actual turnbuckle pad, because when you stand there, it's almost like you're standing there. You ever do calf raises where you're trying to hit the inside of the calf and you put your heels closer together? That's sort of the direction you're going to have it in, and with cables plus the wider turnbuckle pad, you have that much more if you wanted to put 1 foot on the turnbuckle pad, 1 foot on the bar going to the post, and then the cables. You have a lot of stability to do a lot from the top rope. So no, but because of the size of the ring or the lack of size, you better get it right, because you may be headbutting this turnbuckle down here if you have good hops to do that. So with somebody like AJ, I think he tried to get more height rather than now he gets more distance on the flying forearm.
Because you mentioned this a couple of times already, you say the tautness of the ropes. So obviously with a 20 by 20 ring, and they're ropes as well, so they're going to have a bit more slack to them.
No, these are cables though. Let's differentiate.
No, I'm saying WWE has ropes.
Yeah.
I'm in comparison, you can do rope spots. Like Andre the Giant used to do. He leant back, tied his arms up, that kind of thing. Because also, aside from there were ropes, they were a lot longer as well. These ropes are almost more like 14, 13, 12 feet wide. Could you not do any kind of rope spots, like getting tangled up in them because of the tautness and shortness as well?
No, I tried to do it a couple times and tried to kind of rehearse it to see if I can do it. I may have gotten this rope here down about 13 centimeters. That's about it. In other words, it just looked like I was doing, like, you don't see it, but I was like playing bouncy house with the ropes, trying to get them to meet with the metal rope. It did not work out. If you weighed more, maybe, but I'm telling you what, you could tear your pec, your bicep, all the above, because it was tight. And by the ropes being tight, guess what else was tight? Ring mat. Very tight. Not too bad to bump in. I know you're going to ask that question. Not too bad to bump in. But man, sometimes this middle part, which is exactly where you want to bump. I remember Biz gave me Black Hole Slam. It was a TV match. It knocked when they must have put a board or some kind of support right in the middle here, where it was like, it felt like I bumped on the edge of the apron. It knocked the wind out of me. Thank God. I think that was where Raven debuted. They turned the lights off, lights on. Raven threw the fireball at Mick Foley, like post-match. But man, it was like a post-match where Mick Foley came in to save Abyss because we were putting a chair in his head ready to injure him. And I was so blown up from that bump. Like when the lights went off, I was just breathing a sigh of relief because I didn't have to get up for like about 30 seconds.
Did you see the six-sided ring get constructed, and was it just a lot more difficult than a four-sided ring in general?
No, I did not. And as a matter of fact, I wish I did, but I never got there early enough. And because we would do sometimes, especially in December, we would do like 4 to 5 days of tapings for the break and past there. That ring would just stay up at Universal Studios. And I don't know if it stayed up in between TV tapings, which were every other week, but every time I showed up to the building, the ring was already there. I think they had reserved maybe that studio for a time, and then they just left it up between.
Also, there didn't look like there was a lot of space outside, Stevie, as we were watching on the Patreon. And Sojo Bolt, Awesome Kong didn't quite catch Sojo Bolt properly, and she nearly died. There was like 5 feet of space to work on the outside there. I was also thinking, you know, JD McDonough, when we watched that, and he did the moonsault, not in the ramp, where the ramp was, but he did it where the announce table was, and crushed his ribs or whatever he did. And that's got a lot more space to work with. But how did more people not get hurt in TNA, especially on the outside doing dives and whatnot?
Well, I think people did get hurt. It just wasn't as prevalent and wasn't put up there a whole lot. I remember that. And actually in the Victory Road match, we tripped over, like Abyss threw me over the top rope. I took an okay bump, but my tricep hit the corner of the step. And I had such a bruise on my right tricep. And it looks like nothing. It looks like a little dink. Man, I thought it punctured the back of my arm. But that's because when I went over, even knowing the ring guardrail, which is my mortal enemy from the past, the guardrail, you know, when I got thrown over, it was like up and straight down, and it was barely enough room for me to clear. And then you have the natural momentum of taking a bump and kind of rolling through. And dude, when I hit that, it could have been the back of my head. Thank God it was my arm. But that's when I realized, like, man, we only got, you say 5 feet. I was like more like 3 to 4 feet at the most of space. They were trying to pack the people in. It was a small studio, and they were just trying to make it, I guess, you know, get as much as you can out of that. But man, it's scary for the fans too, because they're right up against the railing. What if somebody does like the RVD or Sabu dive, or somebody tries to throw somebody like Spike Dudley into the crowd, and you know, today they would just part like the Red Sea. Poor Spike.
Are there any event, you mentioned one, because there was less distance between the ropes, so it wasn't as, it didn't exhaust you as much running the ropes, basically. Any more advantages of a 6-sided ring over a 4-sided ring?
Well, I think more space to do different things in different corners. And 4 corners you have, the talent doesn't make enough use out of the 4 corners. Everybody's just trying to, where's the camera? Where's this? We got the Hot Wheels feet trying to run to this corner because this is the corner we need to work in. In this way, when you say go to the turnbuckle, you got a bunch of room. Like when my match with Abyss, I was trying to work all 6 turnbuckles just to give different looks, different camera angles, a different spot. If you keep going back to the same corner, it's like they're going back to the same corner. But if you have 6 more or 5 more, 6 total to work with, it kind of excites you in a way where you're not feeling like, or the people watching are not watching a same corner spot as if you were going even to 4. So that's something I was real aware of to try to do. Did I accomplish it? No, but I was trying to. But also it confuses you. Like I said, if you have an inexperienced worker, say you put one of those girls from WWE in this ring, and like they know they want to go to this corner, but because they're working around, they end up over here. And instead of going to one of these 3 corners, we're going to run it all the way over to that corner and just make it look like we're doing a spot.
Do you think there's more confusion in a 6-sided ring? So when somebody, it's kind of obvious in a 4-sided ring when you're trying to throw somebody into a turnbuckle, but maybe not so much in a 6-sided ring where are they throwing me into the ropes? Are they throwing me into the turnbuckle? Then if you get it wrong, there could be miscommunication when they come back at you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's not a whole lot of room for error in this part. You can very easily turn whipping into the ropes to going into the corner. Sometimes you got to roll with it, if you're not, or the guy would bounce off the corner. And to me, that creates more of, oh, you're bouncing off the ropes, you're bouncing off the corner, you're taking a backdrop. There you go right there. There's a move right there, especially somebody like me who never lands the same way twice. Say you have somebody that takes an AJ Styles type backdrop, which is more height than distance, but then he feels it, or the person pushes him a little too much, not on the boost, but the way over the shoulder, he's hitting those ropes. So you have a lot of those Eddie Guerrero spots, I call them. Remember when Eddie used to get like monkey flipped and his legs would always hit the ropes? That's the danger. The monkey flip spot, my goodness. If you were Dolph Ziggler, you know how you just do this and then hit his face? His face would hit that turnbuckle. That's a great spot, by the way. I don't know how he does it. He does a full flip and then face bump off a monkey flip.
One advantage, and this is just a theory of mine, is, and it happens in 4-sided rings a lot, is that let's say you slam someone in the middle, then you're going to come off the top rope onto their prostrate body, but they're in the wrong position. And I sort of thought in a 6-sided ring, that's kind of never a problem because 1, it's always a bit smaller, and 2, you've got so many corners to choose from that they're always going to be in the right position.
That's a good thought. I mean, I saw Rob. I think he's the one, if I can remember correctly. Rob doing the frog splash. You can be wherever you want. He can reach you. I mean, he can reach you in a 20-foot ring, 3/4 of the way. But you're right. If you're laying here, Rob can use all 6 and just turn his body if he's on the wrong one. Or here it is right here. You got 2 to choose from. And if you're a little bit off, say your angle's like kind of like this, Rob can still hit you from anywhere, or here, or here, or here, or here. So you got a good like 50% or more of turnbuckles you can choose from, and the person doesn't have to shift their body around to expose that they're about to get ready for a splash.